An active shooter drill causes panic at a high school, outraging parents. We first reported on the scare yesterday at 4. Now, Seminole County Public Schools says it is learning from yesterday's incident. News 6's Nadine Yanis is live outside the school board administration building. And Nadine, what's next after this?
Well, Julie, it wasn't just students learning important lessons at Lake Brantley High School. No, today district officials say there were several breakdowns in areas yesterday that started with a code red drill in the morning and ended in chaos and panicked parents asking why today.
So definitely a couple big things that we'll learn.
Today, Seminole County school administrators admit there are some tough lessons to be learned after a morning that began with a code red active shooter drill yesterday, ended with this chaos in the cafeteria. Officials say there were two incidents, the first being the unannounced code red drill, where not even the teachers knew. This screenshot meant only for staff somehow being shared to students, saying there was an active shooter. Back at home, parents were supposed to get an alert. It was just a drill, but that alert was never sent out until an hour later.
We obviously definitely apologize for not getting that message out quicker.
Then later, once the code red was lifted, district officials say administrators made an announcement congratulating students on how they did in the drill. However, all students heard in the cafeteria was code red again.
One kid here, I spoke to another student here. Today was a fire drill. It was supposed to be they had a fire drill and also a gun-armed drill supposed to be today. And supposedly the shooter is a kid. He was wearing a black vest with a red shirt.
Gunshots. Did you know there were gunshots right away?
At first, it sounded like firecrackers because we had been planning for an event to happen, something like a staged area where we're going to do an active shooter scenario.
Well, but I just want to make sure I have this straight. So you sent them a long, in effect, essay on what you thought. But they put their own words in the question, and they weren't the same as the words you had sent in. They were the producer's words?
Absolutely. They had taken what I had wrote and what I had briefed on and talked about, and they actually wrote the question for me.
But not with your words. I mean, they put their own words into your question, even after they'd asked you to send questions in.
The majority of students who survived the mass shooting in Parkland, Florida, have been speaking out in favor of gun control. However, there was apparently one student who did not agree with gun control and wanted to ask a question during CNN's town hall on this very topic. Now, the student his name's Colton Habe. He had claimed that CNN essentially wanted to script his question. And then later, his father released doctored emails to make it seem as though CNN was telling his son what to say or what he can and can't say. So Glenn Habe, who is the father of Colton Habe, admitted on Tuesday that he did doctor these emails between his son and CNN in an effort to convince people the network told the Marjorie Stoneman High School Junior what to say during the live town hall last week.
Just quickly, I just get an idea of whether we think this is a coincidence. We have two incidents at this school in the 60 days prior to the attack where they appear to be taking some steps associated with dealing with an attacker. Is that just coincidence? Is that normal? Did other schools in the state have two? Or was there something making them nervous that had them training on this?
No, it was coincidence. So it was purely coincidence.
A South Florida high school is taking criticism now for a class assignment that some say was tone deaf and exploring the Parkland shooting that left 17 students dead at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High. School administrators over at Coral Glades High School have pulled a quiz Friday entitled, "Does Nicholas Cruz Deserve to Die?" Cruz is the accused shooter and is being held responsible for the massacre. Prosecutors have said they plan to seek the death penalty against him. The quiz dealt with the Constitution's 8th Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment and the death penalty. I'm Ken Molestina for CBSMiami.com.
I know a girl that was shot, Ashley Baez. She was shot in the leg and she went into surgery.
Okay. 1210 or 1211 room number. There's only she and another student are the only ones in that classroom.
In the 1230 classroom?
Yes.
There's no teacher with them? Or no adults,
No,
just the two students?
2 students in the room. Yeah, they're on the first floor too.
Okay, just tell them to stay where they're hitting at.
Another student in the class now, I heard.
Okay.
Does pause momentarily, appears to be taking things out of a backpack that he does not take with him before continuing. Now the suspect at this point drops a backpack that they were carrying, removes several items including a camouflage shirt and a ski mask. He does not put either of these items on.
Colton, one of our anchors, Eugene, has a question for you. Go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, Maribel, if you could ask him, we just heard him talking about the assistant coach. He said he wasn't sure if the coach was critical, what was going on. We do now have confirmed through our partners at the Miami Herald that the assistant football coach has passed.
There are 2 adult victims on that west end. When he's at the door, the first adult victim, I believe, is being shot. And I believe he's still in that area when the second victim is shot.
So I know we're trying to be respectful of the victims and stuff, just because
Where's Peterson? He's outside the east doors.
Right, so the one that came through the door is Coach Weiss. The one that had already been shot on the ground is Hickson.
There are two adult victims on that west end. When he's at the door, the first adult victim, I believe, is being shot, and I believe he's still in that area when the second victim is shot.
So I know we're trying to be respectful of the victims and stuff, just because
Where's Peterson? He's outside the east doors.
Right. So the one that came through the door is Coach Feiss. The one that had already been shot on the ground is Hickson. So I'm sorry.
No, that's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So Hickson's on the ground. Just for context, you all have heard enough about this now. That is the first team that went in through the west entrance. The first officers that went in, that's the first team, and that's the extraction of Coach Hickson that you see there.
Two people just outside the building. Two people just outside the building. One person out on Pine Island Road. One person out on Pine Island Road.
At 2:39:08, law enforcement removed the second victim from the hall on the first floor. He was taken to the triage area, but did not survive his injuries.
When the officers took the injured out of the classroom, they only took Sam and Ben and left Carmen and Maddie because they thought that they were both deceased. And they returned to the classroom 2 or 3 more times to find that Maddie was actually breathing. And that's when they took her out of the classroom and started bringing her to the ambulance and started working on her.
Maddie? She looked very pale. And at that point, Officer Fernandez shook her to elicit a response from her. I believe she gasped or she moved, but she made signs of life. She had a pretty bad injury to her right elbow, which we dressed right away. The fact that Maddie had a tension pneumo. And I'm not a doctor, but in my estimation, that chest seal prevented that tension pneumo from progressing and perhaps killing her sooner.
I also had a hole in my lung, but thankfully because I was healthy, they didn't have to replace it. Dr. Michi Franco sewed together my stomach or my abdomen. She's like a miracle, and she's like brand new. You don't even notice that she was just like shot or even like in that kind of condition.
The nature of my questions are very different from everybody else's. I have questions, I don't actually have comments. So hopefully you guys can answer some of those for me and many concerned members of the community. I didn't survive anybody at Douglas, however, I did attend there as a high school student, class of '07. As you can tell, I'm very nervous. There are some issues regarding Nicholas Cruz's statements, particularly those that he made during interrogation. I have looked at those transcripts for myself, and they are heavily, heavily redacted, heavily censored. Does that have to do with this inner envelope, outer envelope issue that you were discussing earlier, a matter of confidentiality, sealed statements, or is that something that officials just don't want the public to know about? So I find it very concerning that we are not able to hear everything that Nicholas Cruz has to say. Does anybody have anything for me regarding all of the heavy redactions there?
Ms. Constantine, I use some latitude because it was of the people that we engage in dialogue. This is a public comment section, so we're not going to engage in dialogue back and forth. You're welcome to make all the comments during this, but we're not going to engage in dialogue back and forth.
Okay, forgive me, that was my misunderstanding. Another thing I would just like to say, many people are aware there is aerial footage of a white pickup truck approximately, actually exactly 3:20 p.m. that day. So a lot of people are aware that there is this aerial footage of this federal vehicle where plenty of people have reported seeing, it's clear as day for everybody to see, 3 police officers and 3 very large black duffel bags were then thrown into the cab of this federal vehicle. There have been no official reports made. I am a citizen journalist. I make these reports on my own, no funding, no sponsorship whatsoever. I would just like, before this is all over, for that to be known, for it also to be known that although Nicholas Cruz is the alleged shooter and he has done wrong, I do believe that we all deserve to hear and read what he is saying. Also, there is the issue of something called V2K technology. Many of you know that Nicholas Cruz reported hearing voices. And obviously the child was very disturbed, had all kinds of behavioral health issues, but I think that it's important that everybody knows that he did report voices in his head telling him to do this on that day. And as somebody that attended Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, I think it's important that every student be heard. So this isn't in defense of him, this is more in defense of the public and the public's right to know everything that goes on. Thank you for your time.
Kilo 312.
Is anybody 48 on a rose color sedan with a trunk open on the south side of the school?
17 Juliet 510-4. That was cleared by SWAT earlier.